Hey everybody, it's April 2020, and because we're right in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic thing, I wanted to just give you some general tips on dealing with viruses, whether it's this one or some future virus. We're all becoming more and more aware of viruses and our own immunity, so I thought that this would be a good time to make a little video just to present some things that you could do for yourself. So the first thing to consider, your first line of defense is really here, your nose, that nasopharynx area behind your nose, your throat. And in the case of COVID-19 and probably other viruses, it spends apparently a few days in this area before descending deeper into the body. In the case of COVID-19, we know that it jumps into the lungs fairly quickly and in a very virulent way. You might want to just do a little bit of kind of first aid preventative, both first aid and or preventative steps, through this area. So there's three things I'm going to cover. There's three things that I have been using in order to support my immune function right through this area. So the first thing I want to talk about is zinc. So we know that zinc reduces viral replication, and you'll know even back from the 80s, that was really when people started to use zinc lozenges back then, although the form of zinc that was used and the strength of zinc wasn't really quite right. It's evolved a lot since then. The really best form of zinc to use is called zinc acetate, and the thing about zinc acetate is that it is it's in its ionic form, which is much more bioavailable and potent at inhibiting viral replication. So I found these fabulous zinc lozenges, and I mean, it's not that you can't take zinc in a pill, because you can, but because we're talking right now about first line of defense right in this area, the zinc lozenges are really an awesome way to go. So Life Extension makes these zinc lozenges that I'm really impressed with, and the only thing about them, okay, is that they are truly humongous. They're like, right? I mean, they take up a lot of real estate in your mouth. These, by the way, contain 18 milligrams of zinc, and so these are more for acute care. And let me just say that you don't necessarily want to be taking capsules of zinc as well as doing this, and they do tend to be more for acute care or preventative care when you feel like you've been exposed, because you can get too much zinc. Once you get up to 50 milligrams of zinc a day, you're going to run into problems with the balance of zinc and copper in your body. And honestly, even double that, 100 milligrams, zinc can be actually immune suppressive, which is a direction you do not want to be going in. The other thing about zinc is that, like I said, it inhibits viral replication. And in order for it to really cross the cell membrane, it's useful to, you're going to have better bioavailability if you've got like a carrier molecule. There are three that I know of. One is quercetin, so you've probably heard of that if you've been kind of paying attention to people's advice with this COVID thing. So quercetin, if you want to be getting it in food, then you're really looking at like apples and berries and grapes and onions and broccoli. Those are probably your strongest sources of quercetin. Now you can take it as a pill, and nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't know. It has some other anti-inflammatory effects. We've been using it for allergies, for years, in naturopathic medicine. So that sort of helps to shuttle the zinc through the cell membrane. So another thing that has that same impact would be the EEG or whatever it is, you know, that sort of phytochemical that's found in green tea. But, you know, maybe just drinking a cup or two of green tea a day is going to do the same thing. So that's good to know. And then there's one other thing that helps to shuttle that zinc into the cell, and that would be sulforaphane, most potent in broccoli sprouts, which are awesome. And I'm going to talk about those in a little bit later in terms of their usage, you know, during this time, and for a lot of reasons. Another thing to note about zinc is that one of the people that I like to listen to, her name is Stephanie Seneff. She is a senior research scientist at MIT, and she has done a ton of research on glyphosate. Apparently, glyphosate actually depletes your zinc, is what it is. So if you ever want to hear a little bit more about glyphosate, which is a nightmare for a whole lot of reasons, by the way, you might want, and you really want the 411 on glyphosate and Roundup and eating GMOs, Google her. Listen to her some of her stuff, because she is a brilliant scientist. Okay, so yeah, you might want to pop one of these into your mouth. Another thing that is being recommended is propolis. Like, you could either get it as a spray, or you could take some of the tincture, dilute it in water, sort of swish it around, gargle, whatever. You know, if you're allergic to bees, this is probably not a good option for you. Okay, so propolis is a bee product. But apparently it really kind of activates your IgG response. You know, you get to mount like a truly proper IgG response just locally in this area by the usage of propolis. Another really unusual and weird thing that I got turned on to was using this stuff. It's called Briotech, okay? It's also known as HOCl, and which stands for hypochlorous acid. Basically, this is like electrolyzed saline solution. But then upon further research, I found out that it has, you know, a very fast-acting, although short-acting, antiviral, antimicrobial, you know, antifungal impact, and it also has it's really good for wound healing, skin healing. Anyway, so when I go out in this, and especially I'd be doing this, I think, if I lived in New York or somewhere, and I'm around a lot of people, then I just come home and I just do this. I put it in my mouth. Oh, by the way, you can dilute it and use it as a mouthwash for gingivitis. And then I also kind of spray it up into my nose. I mean, I can't tell you 100% certain that this is going to be effective on the COVID thing. Apparently there were some clinical trials in Washington State when the COVID first broke out there, and it was effective on killing the virus, but that was in vitro. It's very fast acting, but it doesn't work for long, right? It's not like throwing on some antibiotic cream that's going to keep working. Like, you're better off with frequency. And same with in your mouth if you feel like you've had an exposure of some sort. So those are three things. And then the other thing that I highly recommend, and this is something I've been doing for years when I feel like I'm either coming down with something or I've been exposed to something,